Welcome back to Garden Talk, brought to you by the Penn State Erie County Extension Master Gardeners. I'm your co-host for today, Mike Bailey, along with Ellen DePlacido. And Ellen, today we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about composting, aren't we? We
Yes,
haven't done that
yes.
yet. And what we're going to
Nope.
do is, we're going to approach this from two different angles. We're going to approach it, number
Okay.
one, from the composting of materials that you would, find in your kitchen or maybe your house. And number two, the materials that you would find in your garden and or other places around your yard. But what about some general comments about composting before we get started on some of that detail?
Okay. Well, I think number one, don't make it difficult. It's really not. Mother Nature has been doing this forever, and I don't think she followed any rules or guidelines when she took up composting. Um,
She took it up?
remember,
Okay.
she did,
Yes.
all organic things do decompose with time. So we can speed up the process and make it a bit easier and neater so that it does not attract rodents and it doesn't smell.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's really not that difficult.
No, no, it isn't, and I'm glad you said that. That's so important, and it's not new. I mean, this isn't something that we just started doing 25 years ago. Like you said, Mother Nature's been doing it for a long time. But let's take a look at those the materials from the kitchen in the house and what you
Okay,
could and should not not put into your
compost.
compost piles. Yes. Okay. But as far as the kitchen is concerned, any kind of vegetables and or fruit trimmings that you come across during the course of your cooking and your eating, etc., and stuff like that, along with eggshells and coffee grounds, and you can even put in a small amount of clean shredded white paper. If you have a shredder at
Okay.
home and you put a couple of sheets of paper through there, don't be afraid to take some of that and throw that into your kitchen one also. But things that you should not, put into your composter that you're using for, well, whether it be the kitchen supplies, kitchen materials, scraps, or even the things from the yard, is that you don't want to put any meat, you don't want to put any grease, you don't want to put any pet food, or pet droppings, or litter box material. So those
Okay.
are out of composting. Those go to the garbage.
Okay.
But but going back to some of the kitchen's materials, what do you got to say about that, Ellen?
Well, I think it's best if you're going to compost your kitchen waste is to use a closed container that has a vent on it of some sort and of course some drainage holes. And you want to keep it closed because, again, you want to keep those rodents and the bugs and the bees away
Yes.
from it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mhm. You don't want your neighbors to be upset.
Mm-hmm.
um, use an enclosed plastic tumbler that works very well. We tried that you don't want to do that in the big garden, but for your kitchen waste, they work really well. And you can get those in stores and online and or you can make your own from a garbage can or some other container just by drilling some holes in it, attaching the lid, and maybe putting like a brick or a stone on top of the lid to make sure it stays shut. And keep that container outside, not in your garage or not in your house. That way you're not going to attract anything.
You're right, and that's what we do here at our house.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
We use a garbage can, and I've drilled some holes in the base of it, and we have a lid that kind of locks on, and that's how I compost the materials from our kitchen. And I'm
Okay.
a casual composter, if you will, and and I'm not concerned about some immediate results, etc. But over a period of time, that works really well. In fact,
Mhm.
as mention it right now, even down at the garden or even in your garden here at home, okay, uh, the fruit that drops from the plants or they get attacked by bugs or gets diseased, put those into some kind of a container. Don't throw them into your regular compost pile,
Right. Mhm.
because again, this is all about rodents and
Mhm.
in the wrong kinds
Smell.
of yeah,
Yeah.
rodents and smell. You're right in particular. So,
Right. Mhm.
um, so what else you got there, Ellen?
Well, there's some other things that you can think about that would help you out. Remember, smaller pieces are going to decompose quicker,
Mm-hmm.
just making your life easier. Don't put whole fruit, we talked about that, or vegetables in your composting container. Cut them up,
Mm-hmm.
and keep that container somewhere in a reasonable location, outside near your house for convenience. Some sunlight will help, but don't let it dry out or get overly hot. Um, but a nice area where it's not visible to everybody, but it's convenient for you.
Yeah, you could, because you got to remember what you're having. What's doing that decomposing is
The
bacterial
sun.
and
Hmm.
fungus and viruses, etc. That are breaking that material down. In fact, you can get those same things in an additives, but you don't really need to have additives put into your compost bin for your kitchen and or your garden issues. You can take a little bit of a garden soil and put it in there, and that's got enough of nature's composters in to make that whole process work very well.
Hmm.
And again, the container location, you will have some leakage
Very
things, okay?
important.
Because as that
Hmm.
fruit, and the vegetable material dries up a little bit and breaks down, it'll release some water. It'll get some drippings. But if you put that container in the garden, okay, the plants in your garden will lap that moisture up real quick because there's some nutrients in it. And keep in mind that you probably need two different containers when you're doing this, because you need to stop adding to one of those containers to allow that
Hmm.
process, de- that decomposing process, or your composting process, to come to completion. And while that's happening, you need to put your kitchen scraps in another location. And some of
Okay.
the products that you can buy commercially now actually have two composters side by side, so that you can actually do that easily. You got to keep in mind that uh, as material decomposes, it needs a little bit of oxygen. So you need to have one of those tumblers that they can turn a little bit,
Turn it. Hmm.
and add that oxygen and air to that process. And if by chance you put some materials in there that makes it a little bit smellier than normal, you know, take some carbon-based material like that, some of that shredded paper, or even some
Paper.
sawdust or dry leaves, and put it into there. And you don't have to have a lot, but put it in there, and that'll temper that whole process.
Hmm.
Okay, and you got to be patient with yourself and with the decomposing process. Okay? There's a learning curve as you start
Don't
to
get
do
in a
this
hurry.
if you haven't
Right.
done this. Okay, but
Hmm.
how long is this whole process going to take, Ellen?
Oh gosh. Well, it depends on what you've put in there and how often you're adding things and what your temperature is and how much air flow you're getting and how much carbon you put in. It could take up to 4 to 10 weeks. It's not something that's going to happen weekly or something like that. Even down at Emmaus, our compost pile, we keep saying, when are we going to use this? When are we going to use this? Well, you got to make sure that the conditions are right so that it is decomposing.
Yes. Okay. Well, we
So
hope
4 to 10 weeks at least.
well, I hope that kind of helps. Okay, and next time we're going to talk about composting the garden and yard materials. So I hope you're with us then. Thank you now.
Thank you.